Right now on the news at 10, a massive project proposal with major economic implications for southern Idaho is in the works.
It's a very large investment with the potential to really invest in the clean energy economy in southern Idaho.
But for some of the locals, the size, scope, and closeness to a sacred site has them fighting back.
It would destroy that area, and it would definitely harm the experience at Minidoka National Historic Site.
Tonight, hear from lawmakers, stakeholders, and the people who'd be impacted most by the proposed Lava Ridge wind farm. The news at 10 starts right now. Welcome to the news at 10. There's a push for sustainable energy nationwide, and that push is playing out in the Magic Valley as well.
The Bureau of Land Management is deciding whether to allow the Lava Ridge wind farm project to become a reality. And if approved, up to 400 wind turbines could be built about 25 miles northeast of Twin Falls. But the project, as you can understand, is very controversial. Very controversial. Our Abby Davis looked into this. And Abby, from historical to environmental concerns, a lot of people are trying to stop Lava Ridge from happening.
Exactly right. And one group in particular, the Friends of Minidoka, say that Lava Ridge would destroy the solitude of the site. Solitude, they say, helps preserve the sacred nature of Minidoka National Historic Site. In Jerome, Idaho, lies a painful past.
You never go out there without thinking of the people that were there.
Like Janet Matsuoka Keegan's family, many of whom were incarcerated at the Minidoka War Relocation Center back in the 1940s.
This is my grandmother and her children, and this is my mom. All of these people would have been incarcerated at Minidoka.
Matsuoka Keegan tells their stories through her position on the Friends of Minidoka board. The nonprofit educates people about the World War II incarceration experience, while also preserving the legacy of the Minidoka National Historic Site. You're looking at what's left of the Minidoka War Relocation Center, where more than 13,000 Japanese Americans were once incarcerated. But its skyline could soon be filled with massive wind turbines, a project the Friends of Minidoka say would desecrate the sacred site.
It would destroy that area, and it would definitely harm the experience at Minidoka National Historic Site.
Magic Valley Energy, a subsidiary of LS Power in New York, proposed the Lava Ridge wind project in 2020. It resubmitted a revised proposal to the Bureau of Land Management last August. LS Power's Senior Director of Project Development, Luke Papez, says the proposal has many benefits.
It's a very large investment with the potential to really invest in the clean energy economy in southern Idaho.
The Lava Ridge project would include up to 400 wind turbines. The proposed project area sits about 2 miles north of the Minidoka National Historic Site and 25 miles northeast of Twin Falls within Jerome, Lincoln, and Minidoka counties. Papez says they looked at many potential locations.
We sat down with federal, state, local stakeholders, conservation agencies, and looked at, frankly, areas with much higher wind resource, but were in areas of higher conservation value, more pristine habitats.
To avoid building on those pristine habitats, Papez says they eventually landed on the Magic Valley.
It's been impacted by multiple wildfires over the past 2 decades. It's not in its native state any longer. And we saw that as a good factor to try to bring this type of infrastructure into that altered environment.
But just because the land's not in its native state anymore doesn't mean there aren't major environmental concerns. The BLM has final say on what happens to the project. It outlined those concerns in its draft environmental impact statement, a more than 1,800-page document, analyzing the project's impact on things like bats, livestock grazing, greater sage grouse, and climate and greenhouse emissions.
Over the past 2 years, the BLM has actually received over 2,500 comments that helped us shape the draft environmental impact statement.
Eventually, the BLM will create a final environmental impact statement. Staff could choose Alternative A, no action, which means stopping the project altogether. They could also approve Magic Valley Energy's proposal as is. Or they could approve a different plan, since the draft environmental impact statement also outlines alternatives C, D, and E. Right now, the BLM prefers alternative C or E, both of which have a smaller footprint than Magic Valley Energy's proposal.
That was to reduce those impacts to those special values, the historic interests, the tribal interests, the interests being expressed from the Japanese American community regarding the Minidoka National Historic Site.
You could be far right, far left, in the middle. If you live here and you're in the Magic Valley, southern Idaho, It's brought those people together. I haven't talked to anybody that is in favor of it.
Here are some renderings of what the project could look like from the Minidoka Visitor Center. At their closest, the wind turbines would sit about 2 miles away.
This project is extremely invasive, and as we were talking about the openness and feeling that you get there, it would be very detrimental.
Pepez says they understand the concerns.
The core development philosophy of our firm is to really sit down and work with all stakeholders to understand what their core concerns are regarding the siting of this type of infrastructure.
They listen, but they have an ulterior motive.
The turbines could be anywhere from 390 to 740 feet tall. That's more than double the height of the Statue of Liberty and just about 140 feet taller than the Seattle Space Needle. For a local comparison, Zions Bank building in downtown Boise is 323 feet tall.
The size and the scope of the project, for me, is a non-starter. To take that kind of thousands and thousands of acres they're talking about and transforming them from an open landscape to this with all these towers on them, it's just, it's not right.
U.S. Senator for Idaho Jim Risch isn't the only politician against the project. He, along with Governor Brad Little and some other Idaho lawmakers, sent BLM a letter in February expressing their concerns.
There's other ways to generate electricity, and we do generate electricity a lot of different ways without having taken up this huge amount of space.
The Gem State imports and exports a lot of energy from nearby states, especially hydropower. Data from the U.S. Energy Information Administration shows about 70% of the energy consumed in Idaho comes from out of state.
Moving electrons across state lines is not a new item here for Idaho.
Senator Risch sees it differently.
I mean, look, this is an out-of-state company from New York coming in here doing this to our land. They're going to take the electricity, not use it here. It's going to be shipped south towards California where they'll use it.
Pepez says the proposed project would potentially serve 350,000 homes in Idaho and surrounding states, depending on who buys the power. He says thinking all of the energy should stay in Idaho is unrealistic.
We view this as any of the other great industries in Idaho who locate here, bring their families and their jobs here, generate tax revenue here, and produce a product that's either used in state or taken out of state. Anything from ag, potatoes, microchips, dairy products, beef, any of that brings in investment here locally for producing products either used in Idaho or taken out of state.
But Matsuoka Keegan's focus is keeping the history of those brought into the state against their will more than 80 years ago.
Psychologically and physically, it's a part of the Japanese American psyche.
In 2022, the National Trust for Historic Preservation listed the Minidoka National Historic Site as one of the 11 most endangered historic sites because of the Lava Ridge project. Matsuoka Keegan says this isn't their first time fending off a potential threat.
It was in 2007 or 8, there was a big transmission line that was proposed to go right through the center of the site. So there was a lot of hard work that went into getting that moved.
She hopes the Lava Ridge Wind Project is moved too.
It's all one beautiful place in the Magic Valley that we don't want to see. And it's a strong word, destroyed. It's not just the Japanese American experience. It's the whole Magic Valley and southern Idaho that would be harmed by this project.
BLM extended its public comment period through April 20th. The final environmental impact statement should be released sometime late fall before the BLM makes its decision later this fall. Or sorry, the final draft will be sometime later this summer before the final decision is made in the fall, just to clarify.
Okay, so let's say BLM does approve Lava Ridge. What recourse do those who don't want to see it there, what do they have?
Well, Senator Risch told me that the courts are going to have the final say, so alluding to some future lawsuits if this does go through.
Man, like you said, very controversial. We said that at the top, but truly and honestly, it sounds like a lot more people opposed than in support of this project. All right, Abby Davis, thank you.